All right, folks, welcome back to the East to West Hunts podcast, where we talk all things hunting from do it yourself to guided hunts, and for guys that are obviously looking to take their game to the next level. Today, I got a pretty sweet story. Our guest, Antonio, here just went on three back to back to back hunts in two different states and hunted two different animals, and he was successful on all three of them. So, that's just wild. So I'm super excited to hear about this today because not many folks can say that they've done something like that and had success all along the way. And I'm certainly curious about a lot of stuff with this hunt. So, Antonio, welcome to the show, man. Really excited to have you on.
Alex, man, thanks for having me, and thanks for all the support over the years. We've been getting to know each other here for maybe 3 or 4 years now, and
Mm-hmm.
it's been helpful. And some of your coaching and tutelage has been fantastic as well. But we put together quite a journey this year, which took a lot of planning.
Yeah,
It paid
yeah.
off.
Yeah, I'm sure of it, and I can't wait to hear about all the planning that took place to this. When we were going back and forth, I knew it was going to be a lot, but I didn't realize like they were just back to back to back hunts that you had going on. So, massive props to you, and really looking forward to hearing more about this. So let's jump in and actually talk about this. Like, how did you? Like, did you purposely coordinate three back-to-back hunts, or did it just land like that because of how you applied and what you drew?
Sure. So it kind of a little bit how it falls. You're in the business of hunting applications, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm no different than probably most people, and I'm absolutely shooting for some top quality hunts all over the country, anywhere I can apply. And if something like that comes through, it'll typically take precedence.
Sure.
But, those great hunts are far and few between and hard to get. So, usually most of my planning all year outside of one of those really good tags coming through is just seeing what can I do that has high probability of getting a tag. Who in our group, we have a couple guys, about six of us kind of live in different parts of the country that like to try to hunt together if we can. Who can do it? When can we do it? Everybody's balancing family and work, as all of us hunters and outdoorsmen know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, and the one last tag that came through that was actually a random tag was a bonus draw that we got, that kind of dictated how everything was going to play out. Was my father, 72 years old. He drew one of the Arizona bull tags on the random draw. So
Okay.
pretty lucky there. And so once he drew that, that kind of was the flagship of like, okay, we're doing this, right? So he's going to need some help, and anything else we can straddle around that hunt becomes a little bit of value add. So, for the listeners here, I live in upstate New York, right at the southern tip of the Adirondacks in Saratoga Springs. I got a long way to go to get out hunting in the West, but that's kind of
Yeah.
what I've been doing for the last 10 years and kind of committed to it. So, we've between our group, we've got, a crew cab truck. We've built a hunting trailer. When we can, we drive all the way out with a lot of our gear, camping stuff, hunting stuff. If it's multiple hunts, it's just if you harvest animals, you can bring everything back. It works
Mm-hmm.
out. I definitely do the fly in and hunt as well, when the logistics work. But once that Arizona tag was booked, that was for about Thanksgiving weekend. It was the late rifle Arizona bull hunt in the state.
Okay.
I hadn't drawn anything elite anywhere really. And the nice thing about Arizona is it's kind of early, right? It's usually that second Tuesday of February you put in your elk apps, and usually by the beginning of March. So there's a lot of applications to come after that draw result has come out to help dictate what you're going to do.
Right.
So, I know I've been working with you on some Colorado strategy for a couple of years here, looking at different hunts and accumulating points. And, Colorado has that pretty cool option of getting some tags on your second choice, not burning your points. And there was a unit I did 2 years ago, which you helped me with, and we were successful then.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I ended up drawing that a different season, but I ended up drawing a second choice hunt on that. And the nice thing is
Sweet.
it's only, it's a shorter season.
Yeah.
It's a 5-day hunt because it was fourth season. And it ran right up to, we had about 4 days from the end of that hunt till the start of the Arizona hunt. So if nothing else played out, say, hey, let's drive out to Colorado. We'll do some hunting. I'll get my old man to fly in so he's not, knocking himself out waiting for us to run around Colorado a little bit. And, then we'll meet him in Arizona, pick him up and do our thing, and then kind of all drive home. So that was the base of the plan.
Okay.
And that ended up working out. And, I put it out to the whole group who wants to come to Colorado. And my cousin Andrew, he was all in with me the whole way. And so we ended up getting the tags, which was awesome.
Okay.
And this was a unit we've hunted before. So we were excited to get back there.
Did you guys apply as a party for that?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
We didn't.
You both drew on second choice on that?
Both drew on second choice.
Wow.
Interestingly enough, a couple of the guys in the group, what we were trying to actually get were some deer tags for that season, and a little harder to draw. We were definitely going to have to burn points on that. We were unsuccessful in getting the deer tags, but I drew the elk tag second choice. And, the nice thing again about Colorado is if I had drawn the deer tag, I could have returned the elk tag.
Sure.
Which is, it's a good option. It's good to have a little bit of options knowing we wanted to go that season anyway.
Yeah.
So
you did Coues deer in Arizona.
So this came in last, right? So
Okay.
Arizona, I think, does their leftover tags, if they have any, pretty late. And that's left over after their deer draw, right? So the deer draw is in June. That's when you apply, right? For Arizona. And so, I think by like July, beginning of July, right? So after that draw was complete, there were some leftover tags. And so I have some family in Arizona. I do spend a lot of time there, which is why I'm pretty honed in on the area. We have a good buddy that lives in Tucson, great Coues country down there. He's a big Coues hunter. And when I saw there was a bunch of leftover tags, they were muzzleloader. I didn't even own a muzzleloader. I want you to know this.
It just gets better. All right.
It gets better. So again, I pinged the group and I said, hey, it's a long shot. Let anybody interested in a Coues hunt, down in Tucson, a warm weather hunt. I feel like I'm always hunting in the cold. So that was a little bit attractive. And having a local guy who hunts there a lot was super helpful, right? I'd have to put as much work in the planning side because I had some boots on the ground and some experience on the ground. And, again, my cousin Andrew's like, I'm all in with you. So we sent in the application and boom, my check got cashed like immediately. And drew that. I couldn't believe I drew it. So then we could only do 4 days of Coues hunting to make it back to Colorado. And that's how we planned it out. It was like fly in. Let me back up a step. Once this all played out, my family usually goes to Arizona every year. I've got in-laws there. You bring my kids. We decided to drive my truck and hunting rig out in August.
Okay.
And I left everything out there to save a bunch of time. Right. So we were packed and loaded and I left it, in Arizona. And so I was able to fly into Tucson the day before the Coues hunt started. My buddy got into my truck who lives down there and picked us up at the airport, and we were scouting by that afternoon.
I was wondering because I was really wondering, one, the coordination, but two, like, I knew you drove out there, but like the having your rig out there earlier in the year makes a lot of sense. So did you then end up flying to Arizona and then picking up your rig?
Yeah. So
okay.
I think the hunt started on the 15th of November and I flew in on the 14th, to Tucson, and my buddy had the keys to my truck and he literally picked me up at the airport in my truck.
Oh, that's so good.
So that worked out. But that August trip was quite the trip. So I had a newborn, 5-6 weeks old and 2 daughters and my wife, and I had everybody in the hunting truck with the trailer. So we took our time going out. It was kind of like the end of summer vacation for us. Did some sightseeing, did some national parks with the kids, saw some friends along the way. So we broke up the trip into about 4 or 5 days with the kids and the family. And then we all flew home after we left everything out there. But that was the logistics, as you know, they start early, not just applications. It's all thinking about how am I going to get there? How am I going to get around on the ground? how am I going to bring all this gear? What am I going to do with these animals if I get some? Right. And, coming from New York, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a trek. So you just mentioning your trailer. Is your trailer like an actual like you got beds kind of trailer, or is it just like a trailer with gear in it?
So it's a trailer with gear. So, we
Okay.
picked up your standard contractor trailer, little 5x8. I think it's a common thing. You'll see it on a lot of the forums. We flipped the axles and raised it a little bit. So anywhere my truck can go, pretty much this trailer can go. We put some basic stuff in it. It's got like solar powered charging systems, outdoor interior lights, shelving. We designed it up where we could fit, 5 or 6, 150, 180 quart coolers.
Mhm.
Enough gear for 3 or 4 guys to go out and come back with harvested game if we need to. It really has paid dividends, and even made the ride in the truck a lot more comfortable because there's a lot of space in the back seats.
That makes
So
sense.
helps a lot.
How long have you had that?
We built that about 3 years ago,
Okay.
and I think we've taken it on 2 or 3 Western trips now. We did Montana with it last year. And, if we're going with the guide tent too, those things take up a lot of space.
Oh God, I
The
know.
stove, they're
I took
great.
mine. I took mine in Colorado, and it takes quite a bit of space. And
Mm-hmm.
I purposely didn't bring a stove this year because I took one of those double sided buddy heaters just to
Yep.
save some space because that stove, it's like a I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty big box, and it's damn heavy too. So
Sure.
all right. God, that's awesome, man. I I can't say I'm surprised with one your prep and planning, and two your success, because you really you dial it in, which I think is very impressive on your part. I give you massive kudos. But for the listeners and viewers, Antonio's got it down. Like for a guy that's going out west, like he's got it dialed in. So definitely listen in, because he's put it to the test and it works, and it's really impressive. I would love to see more guys take advantage of prep the way that you do.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be honest here. Like, this was definitely a banner year and incredible amount of success, and we got some luck along the way. But people got to know, I've been at this for, you know, 14, 15 years, and a lot of my early years was a lot of tag soup.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone on multiple hunts that I had nothing to do with, like no tag, just somebody I knew was like, "Can I come on your hunt? Can I come and help?" Just to figure it out and learn. Right. So I mean, I put,
Mm-hmm.
man, probably 6, 7 years in before I even got my first elk. Right.
Yeah.
And so, it's a commitment for sure.
It's interesting you say that, because I did the same. I went on. So I can't say I went on a bunch beforehand, because I went on one guided trip. I wanted to work with the outfitter. I wanted to just learn like what they were doing on my first elk hunt. 8 tag soup, but it was not their fault. I mean, we just got pummeled with snow. It was a
Mm-hmm.
rough hunt, but an awesome experience. But from there on, I went on 4 or 5 hunts where it was just learning, like just grinding it out. And I think I went on a total of 7 before I got to my 8th, where uh, I finally shot a bull. So I was a part of killing some, bulls and elk, and even some cow elk. But uh, it's trial and error for a lot. That's why I like helping folks out,
Yeah.
because I know how to speed it up because of all the things you learn not to do too.
Yep. And every year you got to take at least one thing away and say, what can I improve on? Right. Maybe sometimes more, but you got to take at least one thing away and say, I got to start doing X
Mhm.
better, or glassing better, or getting in better shape, shooting better.
Yeah.
There's just so much stuff to this. And, you got to be committed to this sport for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a commitment, but it's a fun one as long as you go in on it. That's for sure. You definitely can't half-ass it, as I'm sure you know.
No.
So let's talk Arizona. So you get this Coues hunt going. You said it was a muzzleloader hunt.
It was a muzzleloader tag. I knew what I was applying for.
Okay.
And prior to even applying for that tag, I had never shot a muzzleloader in my life, let alone owned one. Now, I've shot a lot of rifles. I shoot a lot of bow. I'm familiar with muzzleloaders from other people's, but I'd never personally, gone through the process of loading one up, shooting it. So, we had to build a muzzleloader real quick
Yeah.
and get that going. So,
How was that experience of taking it and shooting it and cleaning it and all that jazz?
it's a lot of fun. I see the allure. I see the allure to the whole single shot. I know some guys are able, if an animal's confused, maybe you get two. Like, there's no way I'm getting two shots. Like, I'm slow.
Yeah.
So you got to make it count for sure. We kind of did a hybrid build of not quite one of these super high end muzzle loaders. I know you could spend some big dollars on these things, but we purchased a pretty quality high end barrel and mounted it up to an action and ended up building that way of some parts that we had. So it was an impressive, for my experience, a very impressive muzzleloader. I mean, it's one of the most accurate guns I think I own. Like legitimate 10-shot groups, an inch and a quarter with a 45 cal bullet. Okay.
Yeah.
And I have pictures to document this and show you. And when we were done, it's like I think I mentioned to you earlier before we started the podcast here, I'm a member at a range here in upstate New York. You can shoot anywhere from 100 out to about 1,100 yards. They got steel everywhere. It's a great place for training, wind training, just working with a spotter shooter.
Okay.
We were ringing steel out to about 600 yards with our muzzleloader. So that's crazy. And I think guys who muzzleload know that. Maybe
Yes.
People who don't realize how difficult that is to do. To be fair, the bullet was probably going subsonic right about 450. So probably our max shootable range was 400 to 450 because we got a little more velocity out west in the higher elevation than where we are in New York. But that's it. Like after that bullet's going to start tumbling. So we knew our max range, which again for a muzzleloader was phenomenal. So that was a huge advantage.
Mm-hmm. How many grains were you putting in?
275 grain. 275 grain bullet.
Yeah.
We loaded, I think it was 109 grains of, what's that powder? Like everybody wants this for muzzleloader. It's so hard to get.
The Blackhorn?
Blackhorn 209. That's it. Yep. The Blackhorn.
Yeah.
That stuff is great. It's phenomenal if you can find it.
Dude, I have it. It's kind of interesting talking muzzleloaders. I haven't hunted with a muzzleloader in quite a few years. I have two separate muzzleloaders because one has a scope and one has open sights.
Yep.
They are not expensive muzzleloaders. I was not very wealthy at the time when I was putting these babies together, so they're like I don't know $200-300 muzzleloaders, but
sure,
they do the job.
Yep.
But that whatever Blackhorn whatever it is. I did not shoot well with it at all because everybody was singing its praises. I feel like it was user error at the time or whatnot, but I just never felt confident in it. But I know everybody was so gangbusters about it. I still have it. I literally still have it in my basement in like one of those big jugs.
Sure.
But I was always shooting the Pyrodex.
Yep.
I don't know, the 777s, I think it was, and doing just two of those 50 grain caps or whatever the deal was.
I don't know how much you have, but that stuff's like gold right now.
I probably have 6 or 7 boxes.
Ooh, I think it sells for anywhere from like $90 to $110 for half a pound.
Isn't it? It's wild.
Yeah.
It was tough to get it even at the time, and this was like pre-COVID when I had it,
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, because this was a while back, but yeah, I still have it, and I definitely think it's fun, but it's I just know it's tedious. So I was curious of what your thoughts were there because I like the more primitive side of it, but it is challenging. And some guys, man, they're like, I just hate cleaning it after these shots.
It is a lot of cleaning, that is for sure. Another thing, again, this is a little eye-opening to me. I mean, traveling with a firearm via airlines is challenging enough. You got to know your rules and regulations depending where you live, where you're going. Traveling with a muzzleloader opens up a whole new problem. You can't fly with powder.
Yep.
Technically, you can't fly with primers either. You're, legally, I think most airlines let you fly with factory ammunition in the original factory box, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't end up flying out, as you know. Well, okay, let me clear that up. I did fly out, but when I drove out in August, I mentioned I drove out in August, we brought the powder and we had charges like left in my hunting trailer so that we ended up flying out with the gun, but all the primers and powder were in my hunting trailer already in Arizona. But if my truck wasn't there, that's another logistical challenge. Like, I might have had to call my buddy in Tucson and said, hey, I'm going to have to order some of this stuff. Can you receive it? Can you load me up a couple charges of, 109 grain? Like, it's challenging. Like, muzzleloader hunters have to drive.
Yep. Yeah, that's an interesting one because I get so many questions on how you fly with a rifle. So that's a huge one for folks is the powder aspect because to your point, I don't actually think it's all that challenging. I've never had issues flying with a rifle. I mean, at this point, it's like clockwork. Open it, check it, do your whole song and dance, pick it up, oversized package with your ID, but it would suck to have to fly your stuff like without any of your ammo, and then you have to purchase it separately, or you're on a wild goose chase. That would drive me crazy.
I mean, I've been fortunate so far, but like I said, we flew in on the 14th. The hunt started on the 15th. Imagine if my rifle didn't show up. Happens all the time to people, right, in your bags. And try going to get a muzzleloader, at a random place and zero and sight it in. Like, I don't know what we would have done.
Mm-hmm. Well, so obviously you get your muzzy, you get it shooting well, dialed in, all that. You sounds like you felt really comfortable with it too if you were shooting that far out.
Yep.
So how'd the hunt play out? I mean, how long did you guys hunt for? And
sure,
let's hear the good stuff.
So I've been hunting deer my whole life. Just to be clear, whitetail deer, upstate New York, we have them all over the place, right? I mean, I get 5 tags between all seasons, no problem. And in New York, you can sign over doe permits by the dozen.
Okay.
Right. So we have no shortage of opportunity here. Maybe a lot of private land. I have a small little farm I grew up on, but there's not as much public land as out west. So that's really the challenge, not necessarily getting tags. I've hunted a bunch of mule deer, but I've never actually hunted a Coues deer yet. I was pretty excited to do it. And the first thing I'll say about those things is they're definitely way smaller than I expected.
Yeah.
I knew it, reading about it, seeing them, and then when you see them, you're like, yeah, oh, wow, they're small. They are very skittish. And I see again why so many people really like hunting them. They are always on alert. Every time we saw, whether it was doe or buck getting into the open, they move right along. They don't stick out in the open, and they just go to their next feeding spot or wherever they want to be quickly with no pressure. I mean, these are deer we were watching from pretty far away. Not like we were right on them and they were smelling us or anything. And they don't sit still. They don't like to be sitting out in the open. They are little ghosts. Everybody says it.
Yeah.
So
were they hard to locate?
It took me, we had 4 days. We ended up filling both our tags in 2 days. That's quick. Part of me wishes we had hunted a little more just to gain some more experience. But definitely, I'd say the first day was a little challenging for me to find them. And, my 2 buddies who had some experience and the one guy out of Tucson, he was just picking them out all over the place. Like, man, even when he would tell me where they were, it took me a little bit to get my eyes on them. Right. And so, day one, the terrain is really cool down there also. We were kind of in the Catalinas, just to the east side of Tucson, big aggressive mountains, high desert, real cool place. You can hunt not too far from the road. You can also hike as far as you want to hike and get away from whoever you want to get away from. There's enough opportunity there. Mm-hmm. So we got to some good glassing spots early on, I think, as most people would. It wasn't nearly the rut at all for them, right? This is just, I would call it early season deer hunting. November for Coues deer is just regular habitat, not doing much exciting. So just eating and probably preparing for whatever they have for a winter down there. And we saw a couple deer early on, some doe. It was quiet for first couple hours, and this is just in the morning. And my cousin Andrew was next to me. So we had one muzzleloader between the 2 of us. So it was always just, we didn't want to be too far from each other. But we got fortunate. Just one of these saddles real close to us, 3 bucks just kind of crested right over it. And lo and behold, they started walking right towards us.
Nice.
We were kind of on a nice ridge. It was very windy though. So, that 400 yards, anybody who shoots a lot, the ballistic coefficient on a muzzleloader bullet is not good at all. So wind is your enemy the whole way. So we had them ranged at 500 yards. Like, no, we weren't even considering it. We were like, let's just see how this goes, see if we can stalk in on them. And I don't think this happens much for people Coues hunting. So, I'll take it when I get it. But they just did their little sneak and fed right into a little brush patch that was 200 yards exactly from where we were glassing. And, we knew we didn't have too much time. There was no giant bucks in there, be honest about that. I looked at my cousin and said, hey, do you want to shoot one of those? There was a small 3x2, a couple 2 points. He's like, yeah, let's do it, man. Like, we don't have too many days.
Yeah.
And nothing, it's not the rut or anything. And so we lined up on him in the wind, and I got to give it to him. He put quite a shot with the muzzleloader. I mean, the wind was probably 10 to 14 miles per hour, which is a ton. And, we called the wind correctly because, man, he just nailed that thing.
That's
what
awesome.
What a great shot. So that was super exciting to get one down on the first morning. And we'll be talking about elk here in a little bit, but I can tell you, field dressing and carrying out a Coues deer is it's a lot of fun and way easier than an elk.
Oh yeah, you could backpack the whole deer.
Yeah, I think you could backpack it out without even gutting it.
Totally.
But it is Arizona, so we definitely gutted it and kind of cleaned it up. But it was super exciting, and it was a cool looking buck. We were just excited to have the opportunity, and get on the board right away. And I'm calling it our guide, but it was our buddy who lives in the area. He was super excited that a spot worked out for us, first thing in the morning. So
yeah, oh, dude, that's awesome. Did you guys have to hike in quite a bit, or did you guys kind of like figure out an in between where you were, walking in a little bit? And
we our buddy had a really nice razor.
Mm.
So we definitely covered some miles down the main road, then got way off the main road with the razor, which allowed us to really only have to hike 3/4 of a mile to a mile and a half. And we were, all on our own. I mean, I think for the full 2 days, we ran into a hunter once, and it was really just on the main road.
Mm-hmm. Got it. That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, especially because I knew as soon as I got to Colorado a couple days later, my hiking was about to begin. So
yeah, I know that's a much different hunt. So, oh man. All right. So he gets one down. You pack that baby out, and then did you guys hunt that afternoon then, or was that in the afternoon?
Yep. So that was the morning we did that. Again, it's pretty warm down there, so we kind of pulled out of that area, went all the way back to the truck, and actually ran the deer down to a butcher.
Okay.
Get it frozen. And just with the logistics of our timing, we needed it processed pretty quick.
Yeah.
Because we weren't sticking around too long and we had to head to Colorado. So we wanted to get that to the butcher as quickly as we could. So we did that, kind of got back in for the evening and we kind of drove around to a new spot. And we're kind of, on-axing, looking for access, looking for terrain we like. We learned a little bit in the morning. Just even if we didn't have any plays, we're like, let's just get some more experience and see what we're seeing and kind of where the deer are, what elevation they're at. You think some of these places are completely dry and there's no water, but there's deer there. So there's water not far away somewhere. Yeah. And so we tried a new spot, and the spot ended up, we saw a lot of deer. No crazy bucks, but we saw a lot of deer. And we're like, all right, we should be back here tomorrow for sure. And maybe get in a little closer where you're a little bit more in play if we do find one. So it was still an eventful evening and gave me a chance to get my eyes on some more of these deer and start finding some of my own, which is always, that's the first like reward I think of a hunting trip, is to actually start to see things on your own. Spot an elk, spot a deer. It feels good.
Oh God, sometimes I think that's the most fun part.
Mm-hmm.
Just finding them. Did you change up? I don't want to derail this, but did you change up any of your like glassing gear or anything of that nature? Because I know guys really like a set of 15s for Coues deer.
Yeah. So I personally, for the past couple of years, I run ranging binoculars on my chest, which are 10x,
Mm.
and I've been running the SLC 15s for a number of years now. I think they're great. Yes, I absolutely want a pair of the new NOPR 14s, but they are, top tier pricing. And right now, I bought a muzzleloader this year. How's that? So
Yeah.
maybe one of these days I'll dabble with some new glass. But the 15s have been great for me, and I carry those. And I've learned my lesson of I always tell my buddies, like, don't let me not take them. They're
Mm.
always worth it. They're always worth it. The extra weight.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a big spotter guy. I know a lot of people love them. They are great, I think, for certain hunts. I know sheep hunting. I know when you really need to assess to save a lot of time. But the type of hunting I typically do, or I tried to get in the zone with the animals, so the animals I find, I can make a play on them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a 15x hunting guy. I don't
Okay.
really carry a spotter. I can see the value from a truck or when you're glassing from real far away. But that's kind of my setup these days.
Yeah. I mean, I'd use 15s or 18s probably myself. I almost purely use a spotter because I am videoing and
Yeah.
I'm using my phone scope off it, so it's kind of like an extra camera. But I definitely see the value of it. I mean, I know guys that only use 15s.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even use a 10. They
Right.
just like that. So sweet, man. Okay, so let's talk day two. Anything different there?
Day two, they talked me into going back to the first spot where we got the first one because it did
Okay.
produce. And so we did that in the morning. A couple spikes. It was pretty quiet. Didn't see too much. And so we were kind of making a plan to the spot we went to the night before. And so there's basically two ways to get there. It's kind of hike back out, get on the razor, take a 40-minute drive way long around some roads and then some off-road and real hard stuff and then go to this glassing spot. Or I was like, listen, that's probably a 3-mile hike, but it was over some nasty mountains. And I typically, if I'm by myself, I take that route
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, you know what? If I take that route, I'm probably going to kill a deer going to where I want to be. I'm not even going to make it there. I'm going to find all these kind of like unaffected deer who haven't seen pressure in a while.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to do. But my buddies talked me out of it and they said, hey, let's do this together. We don't necessarily all want to do that hike, which is going to be exhausting.
Right.
So we have had success already. So I said, yeah, it's our buddy that lives there. He does this a lot. I said, I'll follow your lead here. And so we went around. We still ended up doing some hiking, found some really cool spots, really aggressive terrain. And I know, a lot of my reading and listening to podcasts and people's some really good Coues bucks, man, they hang out in nasty country, just cliff, like almost like sheep, right? You find them in like
Crazy.
sheep-like spots. And the funniest part about this was we found some really good country like that. And I kept finding deer on my own and I was super excited about it. And every time it was a doe. And I was like, man, the spot this doe is in, it was just blowing my mind, right? Like it's just incredibly difficult to range, super sharp, edgy cliffs. Like they almost look like little sheep going up and down and eating.
Yeah.
And I always expected it to be a buck, right? But I guess if bucks do it, does will do it too. So I never ended up actually turning up any big bucks. But we only hunted 2 days. But it was still a great place. There's so much to look at. And I really enjoyed watching them. And they definitely taste different and probably better than Eastern whitetail.
Okay.
Yeah, real good meat.
So are you a mule deer? Like like if you were putting them in order, right? Like you got whitetail, coos, and mule deer as far as like flavor palette.
I got
Any?
nothing. I got nothing against mule deer. I know a lot of people comment about it. At least the ones I've eaten from other buddies or ones that I've harvested have been great.
Mm-hmm.
My personal thing on game is as quick as you can take care of it and process it, it's going to help, right?
Sure. Yeah.
You shoot a deer, you leave it overnight, that happens, and sometimes it's necessary. It's not great for the meat, right? Especially in southern Arizona where it's
Oh
pretty
God.
warm, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you have much of a chance to recover the meat, but the Coues was really good. I might like it better than my Eastern whitetail. So
Nice. Okay. All right. You added a favorite to the mix there. I love it. What, would you go do that hunt again? Would be like a priority for you?
So again, the way I got this tag. So Arizona has some really good deer hunting, as most people know. It's got the famous, Arizona Strip,
Hmm.
Kaibab National Forest, which as a non-resident,
Good
you
luck.
might hunt up there once every 15 years or plus, right?
Yeah.
Depending what you want to apply for, which is great. I've been on those hunts; they're phenomenal. Um, but I was able to draw this Coues tag without burning my points.
Hmm.
So if I had the opportunity to do that again, I probably would. It was
Nice.
plenty of deer, plenty of opportunity. I'd probably like to hold out and be a little more patient, try to find a good buck. Um, but it was great, and this will lead us into some other conversation here, kind of how me and my group hunt together. But we do a lot of shooting year round. We
Okay.
do a lot of practice of like spotter and shooter, and we
Okay.
switch and we kind of have calls to each other, shooter ready, things like that. What's the wind doing? Just like talking to each other, right? And trying to help. It's great to have a spotter. It's phenomenal help in a lot of situations. And
Hmm.
one of my buddies that lives out there, Jake, Jake, you've done a hunt plan for him. You did a
Yep.
Barbary, you set him up with a Barbary sheep hunt last year,
Yeah, that
which
was
was
a good one.
a great hunt. And we have a lot of trust in each other. And a lot of times you put a lot of trust in your spotter because they're on the binocular and you're on a scope. I don't care how good your scope is, binoculars are always better,
Hmm.
and things happen quickly. And so you kind of trust what they're going to say. So, we knew two deer. I'm drilling down here to what happened with my deer, and I'm very happy I got it, but it certainly was no trophy Coues deer, but I'm super happy to have gotten one with the muzzleloader.
Yeah.
And so we had, gotten eyes on two bucks. One was decent, a little bigger than my buddies from the day before, maybe like a small 3 point. And knowing I had to get to Colorado, I was like, yeah, let's make a play on this deer. If we get a chance, I'll take it. So I hunt with earmuffs now when I shoot all the
Okay.
time.
All right.
That's a thing for me, right? I made a mistake years ago. Shot a rifle with a muzzle brake, and man, it just hurt my ears, and so I never hunt without earmuffs. Now, again, I put them on when I'm ready to get in a
Sure.
shooting position, but I roll with full over the ear earmuffs. That's kind of my thing.
Okay.
And there's arguments for the noise canceling and not. The problem with the noise canceling is the wind just crushes them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right? They are great. I mean, I have Swordens, which are really good, but it's hard to overcome the wind when it's howling pretty good. But
Hmm.
anyway, so I had my earmuffs, and we made a play on these deer. We figured we're going to come up this steep chute that we had seen earlier in the day and kind of snuck out in front of them, hoping them. And so we saw one deer come up, and we both saw it, got a good look at it. I was ranging it because at that point I was like setting up the gun, getting ready. And we were convinced the first one we saw was the smaller one. So
Okay.
I knew the second one was going to be the bigger one, right? And that's what I thought. And at that point, I had got my range. I knew what I needed to do. I was set, seated position, bipod deployed, muzzleloader up on my shoulder. Kind of my spotter literally was like leg against my shoulder, right?
Okay.
And other deer shows up. I could see its body, right? But he's kind of in the shadows, and I know it was a deer. And he goes, in an excited voice is what I heard, but he's like, "That's not the one." And all I heard was,
That's the
"That's the
one.
one," and just ripped off the shot and just smoked it.
Oh, love it.
So I was like, "Man, I got that thing real good." He's like, "Yeah, you did." It was like,
Did he say anything at that point? Like,
oh
you
yeah,
got the
he
wrong one?
was like, "What did you just do?" Because he kind of
Oh,
knew the expectations we were talking about, and looking back after we replayed it, like the first one was the bigger one. The second one that came up was absolutely just a small little crab claw. It was basically a spike with a crab claw. Um,
okay.
Super happy with it, and the way I look at it is I got nowhere to go up on my Coues hunting adventures, and super happy to harvest one because they are not easy to get in range of, and we did it twice in 2 days.
It's awesome.
Packed it off the mountain, and we kept replaying that whole scenario, right, of like the leading information of like we're expecting two deer, one bigger than the other, and then we both say, oh, the first one's got to be the small one.
Hmm.
And
Usually that is the case.
Yeah, yep. I have full trust in my spotter. But obviously I could have done my own homework, picked up my binos and looked at them.
Yeah.
But I was initially disappointed that the hunt was over, and definitely wanted to see some more and some bigger ones. But at that point, it was great to be successful. We had a couple of guys with us, and now we got to enjoy one good dinner and then head off to Colorado, get there a little bit early, which in hindsight turned out to be very, very helpful.
All right. So real quick, I was picking up on your point earlier, and then we'll jump to Colorado. But you were talking about your spotters and your shooting, and you were talking about uh, you're shooting up to 1,100 yards and whatnot. So
That's how I practice. I don't shoot a game at 1,100 yards. I want to be clear about
right,
that.
right, no, yeah, but frankly, that like even I'm in Michigan, the longest range that I have here is 600, and it's actually quite far away. And in order to even be able to go shoot there, I have to go take it's on a Wednesday. It's the only time there's like a prep. You got to get prep and
Yep.
get an initiation to the place before you can even shoot. So I haven't even gone over there. Living out west, I could shoot wherever the hell I wanted. It was kind of free game, especially when I lived in Nevada. I mean, BLM was just like outside my backyard. I'd go shoot 1,000 yards like nothing. So, so tell me about that. Like, how often are you shooting, and what's that scenario like? Because obviously that's a huge benefit for any Western hunts.
Yeah. So it's not a cheap place, and kind of similar to you guys over in Michigan. There's not a lot of places in the Northeast here that even have that kind of distance. So the guy who built this place, I actually don't mind supporting him and paying my membership dues, which are, I'm a member of a range by my house where I can go sight in a scope. It's $150 a year. Mm-hmm. This place is closer to like $1,000 a year. Okay. Which is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but what you get is phenomenal, and I can't get that kind of practice anywhere around here. Mm-hmm. And I know how important it is for everything I'm trying to do out west, and putting all this time and years in. So I happily pay that money annually. And we basically can go all year round. He stays open outside of hunting season. He stays open for the the winter, and we'll go sometimes 2-3 times a month, at least once a month. Obviously, as we get into those late summer months, tags are coming usually May, June, July. We try to get there minimum once a week if we can. It's about an hour and 20 minutes from my house. Sometimes I'll even just go for half day. And just the practice you can get doing situational shooting, trying different positions, trying to teach yourself how to read the wind, right? And see if you're right, see if you're wrong. Don't get me wrong, all shooting is hard, I think, and takes practice just like anything else. A perfect rest, shooting prone feels great. Most guys would be like, yeah, they would agree. The problem is hunting situations very rarely end up like that. Yeah. We'll cover this last, but my dad ended up shooting his bull off of shooting sticks. Even though my gun has a bipod, but we had to gain some height because of the curvature of the ground. Okay. So, we practice stuff like that. We shoot off our packs. And we really practice working together. And, with these shooting ranges, when you line up and take your time setting up, good set of binos, you can call each other's misses. You can tell, the spotter can tell the shooter what the wind is doing, what they're doing wrong. We absolutely critique each other. Hey, you're not lining up straight on the gun. You're snap shooting versus relaxing and squeezing, calming your breathing. We'll do silly things like, jump up and down 30 times, do like 15 push-ups, and then run up to the spot, get on your gun. You have like 10 seconds to shoot, right? And it's like, gotta get your heart rate going. A lot of times you're running somewhere in the field and you're climbing a hill and you're breathing like crazy and you don't have a lot of time to sit up and shoot. So we try to do the best we can with what we have to practice a lot of that. It doesn't matter what you're shooting, for practice by any means. I've practiced a lot with a 308, which not the greatest ballistics, and it's actually good because it really magnifies the wind corrections you have to make. We practice a lot with 223, but I absolutely, this year I hunted with a 7 PRC, worked great, but you got to practice with the gun you're going to shoot with at least some. Be comfortable with that recoil, be comfortable with how the gun's going to handle, Some of the bigger magnums are more expensive to shoot, but you got to put some rounds down range and know
Yeah.
what your gun's going to do, right?
Yeah. Well, you're better off spending an extra $100 on ammo than getting out there and missing. So,
Yeah,
or wounding something even worse, you know?
yeah, and man, we have, and we kind of keep each other in check. We have dope on all of our rifles, confirmed. We cross-check each other, write down kind of all the information so that we're all confident in each other's dope charts to the point where any of us would literally grab each other's rifle and use it if we had to.
Nice. I love it. Well, that goes back to your prep.
Yeah, and listen, it's expensive. It takes time. Um, I've got a family, 3 kids, a job,
Yeah.
but my priorities are, I train for hunting. Mountain biking is what I do for conditioning. So it gets me outside, keeps me in really good shape. It's very close to my house, but that's basically, outside of activities with my kids, that's what I do.
Yeah. I'm the same. I sometimes feel like hunting has been a lifesaver for me. Like my motivation for fitness is purely to be physically able to do that. Obviously, I want to live a long time, but that's like a secondary thing to being physically able to hunt. Like I want to be able to be old and hunt because I can physically do it. Because I don't want to be miserable in my 60s or my 50s. Like how many guys are just struggle bussing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure everybody's got their whole life story, but I also could say I'm sure people could look back and say I could have done better, and I don't ever want to be that person, So same deal. I mean, every day I'm at the gym, around the block, or I'm doing cardio. I got a walking pad here, so I'll be working doing whatever applications or videos or whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm walking, so I'm doing
Yeah, I
something.
mean, I have so many people, when they hear, from the East, right, who they see me getting elk, harvest them quite often, and then they get interested, and then when I
Hmm.
tell them what kind of shooting training you doing, what kind of physical training you doing, I really want to do it, and usually the conversation dies off pretty quick when I tell them
Yep.
the amount of time I put in. But you just got to do something. I think if you want to go out west and hunt, definitely the people that live out there have a little advantage being at that higher elevation. A lot of outdoor lifestyles out there, which is great. I love going out west, but just do what you can. If you can do more, that's great. You can't do enough training. Nothing
No.
can prepare you for those elevations, especially, my house is like 500 feet above sea level.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get you. So that's awesome. I love it. Somehow fitness always comes in conversation. So it's funny how that happens. So with that, I'm sure it came in very handy for you in Colorado. So you get those bucks down, and then so basically, like, did you get back to camp and just head straight to Colorado, or like what was that scenario like?
Yeah, it was pack up and go.
Attention hunters. Are you sick and tired of the complicated draw systems and tag applications that take place out west? Or maybe you want to plan a western hunt, or maybe one of your dream hunts, and you don't really even know where to start. Well, that's where East to West Hunts comes in. We take care of everything for you. We'll do the tag applications. We just need to put a strategy in play for you of what you're trying to do and when you're trying to go. Whether it's short term, mid-term, or long term, we want to have that play and that strategy together. And when you do draw a tag, we can look at do-it-yourself options such as hunt plans that detail out exactly how to hunt those areas, or we can get you booked with a guide and outfitter in that specific unit or area. So don't leave that hunt to chance. Give us a call, set up a time on the website, contact us on social media, whatever it is, and let's get planning towards that dream hunt of yours. And let's make it a reality. Check us out on www.east2westhunts.com. Again, that is www.east2westhunts.com. Also check us out on Instagram, YouTube, and podcast. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
We got my deer all cleaned up. We got everything on ice. My buddy Jake was with us, but he wasn't coming to Colorado. So we took a little bit different route. We drove up to Flagstaff where he lives, dropped him off. We dropped my deer off in his freezer, kind of regrouped ourselves, And literally first thing the next morning, we had about an 8.5 hour drive to where we were hunting in Colorado. And we wanted to get on the road as early as we could so that, we could get a half day of scouting in.
Mm-hmm.
And that was crucial. And a lot of times with these Western hunts for me coming from New York, we drive 2.5 days, depending where you're going, 2 days. A lot of times I don't have time to scout, right? It's,
Mm-hmm.
it's negotiations with the family, how many days total I can be away. I'd
Totally.
love to be to a unit, 3 days before a hunt starts. And I see the value in it, and I'm not discouraging anybody from doing it if they have that
No,
opportunity.
got it. You can do
But
it. Do it, man.
yeah, but this was one of the first times, because the Coues deer hunt ended quickly, I had a day and a half to prepare in Colorado when we got there, which was just great. We got there, um, got our gear all oriented, got everything all set up. And it's interesting. So when I did this hunt 2 years ago, we did the whole hot tent, camped out in the mountains, and it paid off and it worked. We pre-decided on this hunt we were going to hotel it.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That was the decision, and we were good with it. We're like, we're going to lose a little sleep from travel time, but we'll make up for it in quality of rest, and just knowing at the end of the day we're getting back to the truck, we're driving out, going to
Mm-hmm.
get a good meal. So there's pros and cons.
Yep.
And this was fourth season, and I believe you did a hunt in this unit second season this year,
Yep.
and you were telling me no water, dry as a
Dude, it
bone.
was so warm. Oh my God. It was warmer in second season this year than it was during the prior year in September.
Yep.
I mean, it was hot. It was awful too. Like I remember us driving up, and the first like two or three areas we went to, it was just brown.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was no greenery at all besides like obviously like a pine tree, but there was just no foliage. And it you could just sense how dry it was, which immediately caused. I immediately was like, all right, I'm waving the white flag, like we're moving, like we're not even spending time here because it was so
Yep.
dry. But where I knew there's water trickling even from the trails we were going in, I mean, they were bone dry. It was just kind of like, I'm not going to spend a day traveling up there to find out I don't have water and I got to come back down.
Yeah. It's real. Those
Yeah,
mountains are
it's
big.
not. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, so fourth season you had better weather, I'm assuming.
So I think I was texting you about a week before we were heading out. This is right
Yeah,
before I flew out
sounds
to
about
Tucson. I
right.
said, "Hey, I know you said it was dry, but I think the town just got 3.5 feet of snow, and that's at the town level."
Yeah,
So I was
amazing.
like, I can only imagine what the peaks got. And I think you and I talked about this again 2 years ago. We like this unit a lot because it's a real good migration corridor,
Hmm.
and that really favors late season hunting, which
Yep.
is what we were doing here. And so I was super excited about the snow. And I was like, well, if they weren't in there for your hunt, they're going to be there now. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, they were not I mean, obviously to point, right? Like when you're playing it out, you're gambling on the weather a lot of times of where animals are going to be. So like
yep.
the animals were in different places because of the weather. We were just getting a trickle of snow when we were leaving. So I kind
Mm-hmm.
of figured like whoever had those third or fourth season tags was probably going to be in a much better spot. If I would put in for that unit, I would definitely go for third or fourth season, predominantly probably fourth if I was elk hunting.
Yep.
So,
You
so
may
yeah,
want you
you
may
were in a
want to
good
deer
spot.
hunt that season too. By the way.
Well, the deer hunting, like I love that unit for deer. You know, good or not, I mean, I didn't prioritize my deer hunt as much as I wanted the guys to get elk or see elk and all that. But it was just like the elk were in areas that were like we found elk, we found 400 of them. We couldn't get access to them because they were all
Yep.
piled in in the wrong areas.
Yeah, that's how it always
so,
goes. But it's
so,
good to see them, either on the private or the non-access spots, because at least they're around. Because if they're
oh,
there, they're coming out of the mountains to get there, so there's more.
dude, and the amount of bulls that I saw was just stupid. I mean,
Yeah.
and they were giant. I mean, I was glassing them up from miles away, and I could just see like nice bulls. So I'm like,
Hmm.
and we saw bulls in some high up areas, but they were going to require some physicality to it that you question how many days you're going to try to spend going up there to see it and so on.
And this unit's been good to us. Obviously, we've been working with you. You kind of laid the groundwork for us, educated me quite a bit, and I put 2 hard years of miles into this unit, and it's paid off. And
That's impressive, man.
I think for the listeners, this unit is not an attractive unit. When you look at harvest percentages, when you look at the terrain, it's not, right? There's way better units.
Totally.
Whether it's OTC or draw, there's way better units in Colorado, way better. I typically, even if it's this unit or another unit, if I find the crowd and they're seeing elk, I usually go the other way, right? And I'm not saying you can't get elk. I don't get excited about being mixed in with that, and I hate having my hunts, all the work I put in, get disrupted by people, and it's part of the game, And actually, I got a little story about that too.
Okay, yeah, I love it
a little bit, but so we, here we are. We get into Colorado. We're amped up because we're early. We're feeling good, and we're like, let's take day 1 of scouting. We have 1 full day to scout. Basically, it was a day and a half. We have 1 full day, sun up to sundown, just to look around everywhere. And the first goal was, now that we had all the snow, the unit was way different than it was when I was there 2 years ago. I was like, we need to see which access roads we can actually get on and get in. Yeah. I have a decent truck, nothing crazy, but I got good tires and chains. But let's see where we can safely and comfortably get to, because that's going to eliminate a whole bunch of stuff. And one of my hunting methodologies is eliminate as much as I can, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's elk sign, whether it's crowds of people, or whether you just can't get there, right? So I like to just start crossing everything off, especially after working with you and my own work on e-scouting. I built a huge hunt plan. I don't think you can build enough. Sometimes I have 15, 20, 30 spots, but like what happens is when I get there, it usually takes 1 day and I've eliminated 50, 60% of them.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
I mean, that's how it was for us.
It's not going to work for the conditions. So, that 15 becomes 7 really quick. And usually after day 2, you're down to like, really, there's only 2 or 3 good spots for the environment you're given right now. Right.
Yep.
And that kind of held true for this hunt. So, some of the roads we had traveled previously, not a chance. We could get up them, and you could see the snow line, and, it was heavy packed in now. When we actually got in there hunting and up into the snow a couple times, man, once it's knee deep, it is exhausting. Because it's not just the snow, the grade and elevation just beats you up.
Were you slipping a time on that?
When you got into the snow, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that, again, that scouting day started to dictate where, what are we seeing for people? And I tell you, scouting day, we saw nobody looking around, right? I think down at the very southern end of the unit, we saw one guide, with a client loading up horses. We're like, well, they're going to go way back in. They're no bother to anybody, right? And super quiet, which we were amped up about. And so by the evening, after we had checked out every single access point we wanted to know about, we said, let's just get to a truck glassing spot where we can just see miles and just see if we see anything, see if we see elk tracks in the snow. And we ended up seeing like 40 head of elk that evening, a couple bulls, nothing crazy, but we're like, this is great, right? Hunt's about to start tomorrow. Getting your eyes on elk is just a great feeling. And the nice thing about it was nobody else there. About 30 minutes before sunset, a guy ended up rolling up to us in his truck, super friendly. He was another out-of-stater from Texas. We started chatting. I'll put this out there, and I'm sure there's a lot of conflicting opinions. All the hunters we talked to in Colorado, everybody was super friendly. Mm-hmm. Nobody was stepping on toes or getting frustrated. Everybody's like, hey, I'm going to do this, not going to bother you. You guys have a good day. Or people are even telling you, this is what I saw, that's where I saw it. Now, there's a lot of deer hunters. This is a good deer hunt. So you didn't know if guys had deer or elk tags unless you asked them, right?
Right.
I will say my experience with running into lots of people in Montana is the complete opposite. I've been to Montana a couple times. I think it's a great state. I love hunting there. But, man, tempers flare. You get awful looks. Man, when people see my New York truck plate, I get some –
get out of here.
I've been flipped the bird a couple times, just parked on the side of the road, right? And, it was actually pretty cool to just chat with a lot of people. We met this guy from Texas, and man, I always say it, there's always somebody tougher than you on the mountain. I don't care who you are. And this guy, I just turned 40. This guy had to be in his late 50s, maybe early 60s, and he was by himself. And he's like, he was telling us where he was going to camp that night. And I'm like, dude, you are one tough guy. Like, he
I
is
love it.
single guy, just backpacking all the way in. It was, that first night was like almost 0 degrees. He's going up into the snow to tent it, not even a hot tent. And
Nice.
I'm like, good for you. We exchanged numbers with the guy. Like, I can't remember a hunt I've done that with too many people on, right? Most people just like either give you the wave and take off and that's it, right?
Yeah.
So we ended up chatting with him throughout the whole hunt and kept running into him, which was cool. But
Sweet.
so, we showed him what we were looking at on elk, and we were like, well, we have a spot we really wanted to go to in the morning, and these elk weren't going to change that. But we were like, hey, if we don't see anything in our spot, we'll see you back here tomorrow afternoon. Maybe the 3 of us will all go make a play, right? If we see him. I have no problem helping other people pull tags. I love doing it.
Sure.
And he was pretty amicable to it too, right? And so that was a great start. We at least had elk. We decided to not go after that herd. There was nothing big in it, but there were definitely bulls. So legal bulls. Now, the 4th season tag, different than yours, is an any elk tag. So, that helps. It's only a 5-day hunt if you just want meat, right? So cows were on the table. They could have been, right? So I did confer with my wife at one point, and she basically gave me the message of go big or go home.
Nice. Okay.
So day 1, we decided to go to this spot where we went 2 years ago. My cousin Andrew, who's with me, this is a spot you got us really close to on one of your hunt plans. So you probably have either been to this spot yourself or you know it from an e-scout perspective. This was one of your highly recommended areas. If anybody's on a hunt plan with you, you put a pretty good radius on an area describing like what's going on, what you think will happen. And so we had good experience there 2 years ago, and that's where we wanted to start the morning. It is not an easy place to get into.
No.
It's nasty. But what I'll tell you about this hunt, we never had to go far. It just took a lot of time because of the snow and the elevation, right? Our biggest hikes were 2 miles. But you got to understand, this might have taken you 2.5 hours.
Easy. I'm actually surprised you say that because I'm thinking, I don't know what elevation you were at, but based on what you're saying with the amount of snow, I'm going to imagine you were somewhere around 10.
Higher.
Higher, really?
So
that's tough. That's tough in that unit, man.
Yeah, and with the snow, definitely made it even more difficult. So not a lot of miles to have to cover, but getting in there took some grit, and you had to really try to navigate a line. There is a ton of scrub oak, and it's deceiving how big it is. Some of it's knee height, some of it's taller than my truck.
Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about.
You gotta get across those like sage and scrub oak flats before you get to the hill and then to the timber or a ridge line or a saddle. And it's not perfect because you get blocked by these giant walls of scrub oak, and like you can plow through them, but man, you're scratching and cutting yourself up, ripping your gear. It's probably like how people hunt in Alaska.
I was just about
through the bush. Yeah.
When we were there, I was just like, man, this is just like Alaska going through this stuff. Because you always hear it, like people get caught up in that, and then it takes forever to get through because your gun's getting caught up, and your bag's all. It just sucks. It sucks.
So this morning one spot, probably a 3/4 of a mile hike to where we want to set up for glassing, but we got there 2 hours before basically shooting light and started hiking because we knew it was going to take us every bit of that to get there. And it did. And we still got there probably 15 minutes after shooting light. But, once you're in, it is what it is, right? And you get there, stay calm. It doesn't always have to happen as the sun comes up. and it didn't that morning. So, we set up. This is just such a great spot. You can't see it from the road. You can't see it from the flats. We see guys parked with their trucks with their spotting scopes looking like crazy. And I was like, man, you can't see the other side of that. Like, sure, if some elk roll over the skyline of the top of the 14,000 foot peak, you might see it totally, right? So I personally, when I'm hunting, I like to get to glassing spots that I like where I'm in an approachable or almost killable situation, right?
Yeah, that's good
Um,
advice.
it is like, and don't get me wrong, people glass up animals from 3 miles, 4 miles away all the time and go find them and kill them, right? But that's hard. Um,
Yeah, it's not the same though because when you gain that elevation and then you can look, you're seeing completely different stuff,
yeah.
and that's the key to that.
So we're glassing, I'm on the 15s, my cousin's glassing, just wonderful morning, freezing cold. We're waiting for the sun to come up. We're bundled up in our down jackets, right? Just trying to stay on the glass. And there's this one spot I just keep looking at. I'm like, man, it's the only face that's like somewhat melted off with some, some food and brush and grasses coming through. And like, I kept seeing one doe deer.
Mm.
And like at first I was like, well, there's a doe, there's probably a buck, even though we're elk hunting. So I just kept looking back there. And I think sunrise was something like 6:30. It wasn't until 8:30 in the morning. So we just kept at it. That's 2 hours of glassing. I know guys glass way longer, but we did not move from the spot. One, you could see a lot of country. You never know when stuff's going to happen. And boom, I just, a bull made a mistake. He popped out, the sunlight on him, and that's when you can pick him out. When that sun gets on him is your best chance. You can find them other ways, but man,
Sure.
they shine.
Yeah, they
And
do.
I caught him real quick. I, tapped I was like, I got elk, didn't know quite what was going on yet. And of course, within like 15 seconds, he walked out of sight. But I was like,
Yep.
all right, we can hone in on this space. There's an elk there. There's something there, right? And so, just get real focused. And this bull is just behind so much thick stuff. All I can keep seeing is just the movement of his antlers behind the branches. But I'm like, yep, we got an elk, right? So now we start tearing the hill apart, find a couple more deer. Probably about 9:15. We're still watching this bull, but he's just feeding to what we can see visually as the top of the ridge of this spot. And so I'm like, well, that bull, they're not in any hurry. They're really safe up there. He's either going to bed right on that ridge or just go over to the north facing side and bed for the day, right? That was my guess.
Okay.
And while we're, debating all this, and he's about 1,200 yards away, right? Like, but with like a valley and a climb between us before to get to the actual ridge I need to shoot him from if I want to shoot him, okay? So we pick up another elk, right? And that's great. We're like, all right, there's a couple elk. It's another bull. It's definitely a smaller bull, but it's another bull. Yes, we want to shoot the biggest bull we find, but we're not that picky. This is probably not the hunt to be super, super picky. By all means, if that's your style, do it and go for it. It's hard to be a trophy hunter if you shoot every small bull, right?
Yep.
But we were like, we got bulls. This is fantastic, right? Now we're like, what do we do? Also, this is late season. I think I've told you this, but all of my personal elk experience has always been late season elk hunting. I've never had an opportunity yet for a rut hunt. I am excited to do something like that, but my experience is late. And this is a migration hunt area. I believe very strongly they were going to be there all day. They were probably not going to bed too far unless they got spooked, and they were going to come out and eat. What I also believe is at the night, they're not going to stick around. They're going to continue their path and move on to the next food source closer to the lower elevation grasslands where they want to be, right? Not to say that's always what happens, but that was my train of thought for this hunt.
Fair.
So we knew there was a good, decent bull in there. We knew there was another bull. We're like, well, at minimum, let's get to this closer ridge. But what we didn't like about it, you could see the tree line was super thick. We're like, man, we're going to get to that. We're still not even going to be able to see them. Like, what are we going to do? But there was no other plays on this. There was no other direction to come from this. I didn't feel confident that we could wait one more day and see if they were in a better spot. So at that point, you're like, well, it's either try and bust them or try and get one, right? It's one or the other. That's all that's going to happen here, right? This is hunting.
Totally.
So what do we got to lose? We have bulls in our sights. They're only 1,200 yards away. Let's go for it. So we make our way over to the other ridge, and naturally the wind is not in our favor. And we're like, oh, so now this is really starting to stress me out, right? The wind is going over our backs, straight for their ridge. We're probably like 450 yards away, but our visibility of the face they were on is horrible from where we are. And we're we're stressing now, right? Like, we know we have bulls. We believe they're bedded up there. What do we do? So we drop back down our side just to get out of sight, keep our scent low. At this point, it's 12 o'clock. That hike was not an easy hike, right? Lost a lot of elevation. We're in the snow, climbing back up. Like, well, it's the middle of the day. Let's have lunch, regroup our thoughts, get our gear right here. And then I'm sitting there studying the map as best I can on Onyx, trying to figure out, like, is there a possible little higher vantage point where I can get some visibility? I just need some lanes. I couldn't get any lanes to this other face. And so we debated for a while, like, back out or go. Again, we said we got nothing to lose. Let's go. And so we made it a point to just stay real low on our side till we got to where we thought the visibility was, and then just, like, get to the ridge. And I was telling my cousin, like, this may sound excessive, but we're going to be like 250 yards from that face. Let's drop our packs and just, like, hands and knees until we're, like, comfortable that we can see, and we don't want to bust anything. And maybe we were over precautious, but it ended up working out. So we get to a spot that has okay visibility, but it was the section of the hill we felt like they were on. And we felt confident about it. I was like, we're going to sit here till dark. Like, we lost our miles of glassing, but I was like, we're going to stay here till dark. And it wasn't 35 minutes later. I'm just on my 10s. I'm on my hands and knees glassing with my 10s out of my chest harness. I'm like, boom, I got an elk. It's a bull. And we had predetermined before the hunt, there's a lot of different ways to do this. We both had tags. Who shoots what, right? And so we were on the game plan of, you spot it, you can shoot it or pass it, right? Yep. And I told my cousin when we were walking up there, I said, I saw the one good bull. If he comes out, I want to shoot him. Any other bull, you can shoot it. He hadn't shot a bull in his life yet. Okay. And, he was with me on my hunt when I got my first bull. So I was like, if it's the big one, I want him. But if not, you can shoot any bull. And, like, I'd rather take a bull and be successful. This is a really hard hunt, even if it's not the big one, knowing there's a big one there. If the big one gives us a shot, of course we're going to take it. Yeah. So that led us to him setting up on the gun, me being the spotter. And this is, like, now just spotting with my 10s. We're, like, live in the action. We're 250 yards from this elk. This is close with the winds blowing right to them. Okay. Right? Like, you're in their zone. And if they catch one bad wind, you're done. They're going to leave. So he was showing himself, but nothing to shoot at. We had a couple spots we just needed him to walk in. That's all we could do. It was super thick. And he's just about to come out. And he had dropped down the hill a little bit. And naturally, I see another bull. And I was like, it's the big one. And it was interesting. Like, I had just said to him, if the big one comes out, I'm going to shoot it. But I was like, what are we going to do now? Yeah. I'm going to get on my gun. You're going to get on your binos. This is ridiculous. Yep. I said, hey, do you see that second bull on top? He's like, yeah, I see him. I said, that's the big one. And when he takes 3 more steps, you're going to shoot him. Nice. I had to do it. Like, yeah, I wanted that bull, but I was like, nope, this is the right play. We're going to get a bull and we're going to get the big one. And by the way, my cousin's shooting a 243. We'll get back into that in a minute. By choice. All right. By choice. Right. It's not an accident. Right. Okay. Oh, that's awesome. And I give him credit for sticking to his guns. People. Yep. I'm sure he's going to drive a lot of debate on this, but that's what his choice was. He put a lot of research into it. He did the shoot to hunt training course this past year in 2024. His shooting skills were fantastic. I was busting his chops the whole trip out about it, but really just to bust his chops, I didn't have the gusto to go with the 243. That's fine. But that's what he had. And I'm like, man, I'm giving the bull to my cousin, and I'm going to if he blows us with the 243, he will never, ever hear this for the rest of his life. Right. So, man, the quintessential eating elk, quartering away, like, it was perfect. This elk, and, like, there was a bush at his chest level, and we didn't even have to say anything. We both knew he needed to take, like, 2 steps higher on the mountain, and he took it, and I was just like, shoot that bull. Like, it was just quiet. Man, he drilled that thing perfectly. And you can hear the hit at that distance, right? And he just buckled, and they do that rock onto their back legs. And again, his training, man, he racked and dropped another round into him so fast. Oh, wow. Okay. Fantastic, right? And that's the argument for these lighter recoil rifles, right? Is his crosshairs were so close to on that bull. He saw the hit. he was able to rack it again and shoot another one before that bull even finished buckling. Right. So he dropped 2 into him. The bull, when I say went out of sight, he only had to go 3 yards and we couldn't see him. It was so thick.
Okay.
So, he moved forward out of our sight. And we were like, nope, those were great hits. We feel really good about it. We just have no idea if he's down or how far he went. At this point, the hill's going crazy. There was like 6 or 7 elk.
Oh, okay.
But we knew we'd shot the good bull. We had great sight of his antlers. So, we're shaking. We get excited about this stuff. I still shake, right?
Adrenaline,
and we're super pumped up. And I was like, man, you better hope that 243 put that bull down. And we're fired up. So I think another thing, if you haven't hunted out west much or in this big mountain country, it's really hard to go locate the animal you just shot.
Yes.
If you're by yourself, forget about it. Like, you got to be really good at setting a point on your map, trying to get yourself there, getting some reference marks. So what we do typically is we set up the tripod, guy gets on the binos and is like, nope, I got the spot, and we send one guy. Right, so he basically guides me into the spot, and then I'll call him over and say, yep, I found it, or I found the blood, or whatever, right? And I think it's one of the better ways to do it if you have more than one guy, for sure. But it's hard. I've been in situations where, like, I can't believe I can't find this elk we just shot, and it takes me an hour.
Yeah. Your bonus is you got snow.
The snow is huge, yeah.
Yep, because you can see tracks of blood at least.
So this, again, it was 250 yards. I actually got to, like, horseshoe around. I didn't actually have to drop elevation. I had to climb a little bit to where the bull was, but this whole time was like 2+ feet of snow. So it still took me, 45 minutes or an hour, and I'm sweating and breathing like crazy and crazy excited.
Of course.
And I ended up walking underneath him by about 50 yards, and I glassed up his antlers laying on the ground.
Oh, wow. Okay. So he didn't go far.
Nope, he went about 7 yards from where we shot him.
Jesus. So, okay, that's great shot on him, man.
That
awesome.
was a fantastic emotional experience. I pinged my cousin, was like, we got a bull down, sent him the pin, take your time, pack everything up, work your way up here. We're going to be busy.
Yeah.
Right. So we were at about 11,700 feet of elevation, 2 feet of snow in some spots. Right. Now we're on a brand new face we didn't hike in. It's 2:15 in the afternoon. You've got 2-3 hours of work of processing, and then you got to figure out which way are we going to go out of here, packing out in the dark with this snow. And there's a lot of stuff. You've been in this unit where you get cliffed out or the grade is too steep and you're dealing with snow. So a little bit of urgency came upon us to be like, let's get this processed and hung, whatever we can hang. We don't even, if we feel too tired, we weren't even going to chance a heavy load. I was like, let's find a safe way out of here first. It's probably more important. So we opted, while I was waiting for him to come over, I'm just studying the maps because we got to do our photo shoot, right, before we cut him up.
Absolutely.
Got to do it. I'm studying the map, and I just was like, I think I'm going to go down the ridge where he's on, which we've never been down. But what that's going to end up doing for us, it's going to get us to another trail quicker, and then we have like a 4-mile hike back to the truck, but it's on like a road. And so I was like, I'll take that. What we had to go through to get to the shooting spot and then over to him, I was like, I do not want to pack meat through that. We would have done it if that was the only way, but I was like, this is not good. At least the other way was just all downhill. But we had to get the right line or it would, become pretty dangerous. And I'll tell you, we took some great pictures. We enjoyed the moment. We savored it. But, man, we started cutting.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about Colorado, we didn't have to worry about any grizzlies, which is nice. So that fear or stress wasn't there. But we wanted to get that meat hung up. Plenty cold enough. No issues there. Just field dressed. We like to do the gutless method on elk. It's just the two of us. So, we're going to quarter them up. We're going to get neck meat, back straps. We always get the inner loins from the top too. Cut the legs down short. And so by the end of that evening, we had it all hung up. This is his first bull. It's a decent 6-point bull for Colorado. I think it's great. He's like, I'm going to do a shoulder mount. So then we took our time caping it, dude, the capes on these things are heavy. If you never packed one, So that's like a whole nother load, right? But we enjoyed
Love
every
it.
moment of it. And I'll tell you, the 2 hours off that hill to the first trail was intentionally extremely slow. Like, we did take a load. I think I took back straps and a front, but we had all our gear, right? It's not like we were up
Yeah.
there empty. So we had rifles, binos. Like, I'm still probably over 100 pounds with only a front on me, right? And a lot of snow. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't have been able to do that without trucking poles.
Oh, not a chance, dude. Not a
So
chance.
I'm a huge,
Trekking poles are amazing.
as I've gotten older, I'm a huge believer. They have so many uses. Packing, they're great to shoot off if you need them. So we get off that mountain. It was the coldest day of the hunt was the first day. So now it's single digits again. We're sweating but cold. We drop all our packs and gear, and now it's like 8:30 p.m. Been dark for hours, and we have a nice 4-mile walk on a trail. But at least it was on a trail. We dropped our packs and was like, okay, we're tired, and got back to the truck. Drove the truck back around. Got our stuff, and I said we hoteled it, right? So then it's probably like 10:30, 11 o'clock. We got back to the hotel that night. But man, we were so excited.
Oh, I'm sure, man. Did you guys go back out in the morning, or did you take your time on that second day?
So this again, I think comes with some age and experience. Is we were like, let's definitely get your elk off the mountain. So we'll hunt our way in for sure. I'll always hunt my way in, but we said let's just sleep in. We don't need to be up at 4 a.m. Get our energy, get a good breakfast. I mean, I think we were still driving in the truck by 6:30 in the morning. Grabbed a hot coffee and a breakfast sandwich, and then hiked our way to a spot, glassed around, looked around, and then kind of were like, all right, let's just go get this thing. But it still took us. I mean, I don't think we finished packing out that bull till 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, your whole day's still taken there. I would have done the same thing though. I know how rough it is, how you feel like, especially after a pack out. But those hikes alone can take a lot out of you.
With that snow too. So basically we're end of 2 days now, and which we expect. We're like, okay, we got 3 days left. Get one more elk, we can do this, right? But we're very well rested for day 3, and like, let's go try this new spot. I had glassed up, and actually we went day 3. We headed back to where we saw that herd on our scouting day, and where our buddy had actually texted us, and he ended up shooting a bull on opening day also, which was great. He shot a nice 5-point, awesome, beautiful bull. But that spot, while we wanted to hunt there, people started to roll in, right? And so that third morning when we came in, and we were there way before sunrise, there was already 3 trucks ahead of us on the trail. And I'm just like, here we go. So we pulled the curveball and was like, nope, let's go try something else. And so we kind of went further south by one of the old mines. There's a mine down there, and decided to just glass from the road. Like, not hike. We didn't have any place to really hike into. So like, let's just see what we see. Looks like some good country. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't 20 minutes. I spotted another herd of elk. So that was super lucky. And I realized the area we were in was actually a really good deer area, because there were hunters all over, and I knew everybody could see these elk, but nobody was going after them. So I was like, these guys are all hunting deer.
Yeah.
100%. And we chatted with a few people too. There was a couple rag bulls in there. We were looking at them. It was like the same setup. I was like, man, they're going to bed in those trees. Once they bed, we can go hike up there and wait for them to come out and shoot one. And I was like, we still have 2.5 more days. My wife said, go big or go home. Like, it took a lot for me to pass some of those smaller bulls, but I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pass them. I think what did it for me was we actually saw a huge mule deer. My cousin goes, hey, there's another elk walking through them. I was like, nope, that's a mule deer, and he's bigger than those raghorn bulls we're looking at antler-wise.
Giant.
He was out of our sights quick, but I was like, that was a huge mule deer, a good Colorado buck that they're known for. So that was super exciting to see. So we hunted the rest of that day out. Didn't really see much. And then we went into day 4. Same kind of thing. We started to get pressured out in a couple spots. And so I had some other hikes planned to some new potential glassing spots. And I'll tell you, out of the 5 days we did 2 big hikes, which was like I was banking on the top of these spots to be really good huntable spots or glassable spots. And both of them turned out to be horrible.
Okay.
Right. And I think it was great elk country. Couldn't see much. And we were like, man, we are in, it felt like really dangerous place. Like the snow was too deep. Where these elk are going to be if I shoot one over there, I don't know how we're going to get them out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like, you got to make these decisions. And like, there's probably people who could have done it. And I was like, again, this is an age thing. I think it's like, it's not worth it to me in this spot. I don't even want to stay here. Right. Like, let's go find another spot. And so, all of a sudden we're facing down the last day and we're tired. Every day we hiked up into those mountains, did those 3-4 hour hikes. We're exhausted. And, last day I was like, all right, I'll shoot any elk today. Let's just get some meat. We love our elk meat. So I'll shoot any elk if we see it. And my cousin's like, we killed that bull on day 1. Nobody's going to go to that spot because it's crazy to get into. Let's just go back there. What do we got to lose? I was like, yeah, they're migrating elk. Let's go back. So we go back there. We set up in our glassing spot 100 yards apart just to get a little bit different ridges and views. We're not there 15 minutes. And I actually caught elk movement with my bare eyes. And so I'm waving them down. I'm like, get over here, get over here. Like, I didn't care what it was, right? I was like, nope, we got elk. Something's going down. And they were on a face that was, anywhere from 400 to 600 yards. So I was like, depending where they come, this is shootable. Mm-hmm. So, we're all excited. It was super quiet in the morning. And I think our commotion, that elk heard us. And it's funny, he actually froze in open sight of us, which turned out to be beneficial and didn't bust because we were far enough away he couldn't see us. Okay. He didn't smell us, but he had heard us. And he was just like a deer, like fixated on us, right? Like in our direction, which was great because he was broadside looking our way and had no idea where we were. So we're lining up and it's a bull, by the way. It's a bull. And I can see it's a heavy, heavy bull. I can also see this bull is either some weird non-typical or he's all broken off, right? And I didn't even want to take amount of time to like really assess it. I was like, nope, I'm shooting this elk. I knew it already. So I'm, from glassing, it's freezing cold. I'm stripping all my stuff, putting on my earmuffs, getting down my bipod. I got my cousin all locked in on the tripod on the bull. We're talking, what's the wind doing? I'm dialing my dope. This is about 480 yards, right? Got to make the shot count. I'm like, you got him? I got him. I'm going to shoot. You good? Yep. All right. I'm calming my breathing. I'm about to shoot. Alex, don't you know? Somebody rips off a shot.
Oh, at that same bull?
I don't think so. But it was close enough. Like, I jumped. Like, the shot went off. I was like, whoa. Like, I, jumped off the gun and the scope was like, and then they shot again. And this bull is like, nope, I've had it, right? Like, this bull's like, so it turns out, and just as this is happening, my cousin sees deer running up the hill on the other side. So somebody from down by the road is shooting at deer. I told you, we were only about 3/4 of the mile off the road. Yeah. Just in some real thick stuff nobody could see. So I panic, right? Like this picture perfect scenario just blew up. So this bull stops for a second. I already had my dial. I rip off a shot. I knew immediately I shot under it. I knew it immediately. I knew I was so mad at myself for that bad shot. Okay. And my cousin's like, you missed. I was like, I know. And, I had to find him again because now he's walking across the hill. Now, when I say elk walk, their walk is very quick. Yeah. So I'm trying to find him again. My cousin's staying super calm. He's like, stay calm, stay calm. He's still there. Reacclimate. And he's walking. I'll probably take a lot of flack for this. I led that bull on a walk and I hit him at 480 yards.
Love it. Okay.
And it was enough to put him down with his head still up, and I plugged 2 more into him and was able to finish him. But that was a super stressful, probably only 30 seconds, 60 seconds.
Yeah, you got it done, man.
When those shots went off, I lost my cool. That's a shot at the range I hit 19 out of 20 times. Right? Yeah. Like I'm and I was prone, calm, like there was no wind, right? And just when that guy shot, I panicked. The bull started to move, and I jumped one off, and I was like, that was such a horrible shot. I was so mad at myself.
Was your first shot that you would have had at the same like yardage?
Yeah,
Okay, so he was basically just
he was going
moving around.
across the hill.
Yeah.
I think by the time he had laid down, it was almost like 496.
Okay.
But you could like the 3 shots into him, dead bull. We were fired up. First day and a last day bull. He was a huge bodied bull. We knew it from across the canyon. We had, like I said, I didn't know if he was non-typical or just completely broken off. And same kind of deal. We had the spotter wait. This one took me, while he was closer to us distance wise, it probably took me an hour and 20 minutes to get over to him.
Okay.
And the hill was so steep he was on. He was caught by a tree from sliding down the hill in the snow.
It's amazing what those elk are in.
When we processed him, we had to tie him up with paracord in multiple places to keep him or us getting run over, right, by this elk. It was crazy. But just, I mean, the odds of this hunt. I couldn't believe we just harvested 2 bulls. We basically shot the 2 biggest bulls we saw on the whole trip.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
We were just fired up.
I love it. That's such a good story, man. Congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, we're exhausted. That took us 2 days to pack out, right? And that was early in the morning, and we probably could have gotten it out in the same day. But when we were coming down with the first big load, you could see the northern end of the unit. A storm was rolling in with snow, and the wind was picking up like crazy. I was like, let's come back tomorrow. We'll get up early, we'll pack it to the truck, and we'll literally from there start driving to Arizona.
Okay.
Because we have 3 days. We got to get back before Thanksgiving, and this hunt in Arizona starts the morning after Thanksgiving, and my dad's flying in the next day. So I was like, we'll have plenty of time to get there and get him from the airport. So 2-day pack out. We are just on cloud 9, man. We were so excited.
So awesome.
Exhausted. And I was so happy
sure.
It was only a 5-day season.
God, man. That's just, it's a lot. I can only imagine how you felt after 5 days packing out 2 bulls and running around that mountain. So
that bull was heavy, and he probably had pretty bad genetics. His brow tines were like fat and straight, none of that curl you see in a lot of those big elk, and just like stubby, even though his antler mass was huge, and he was broken off. So I don't know if he was a 5x5, 5x6, but he was ages older than the other 6-point we shot. Like, I'm guessing this bull was somewhere maybe 6-7 years old, where the other one was probably a really good genetic, probably 3 to 4 year old bull.
Hey, you got 2 bulls down in a very hard unit, man. Just it doesn't matter. That's impressive.
Yep.
Impressive. Cool. So, all right. So then you're exhausted. Pack this thing out, and then you run over to Arizona again.
So we're beelining it to Arizona. So again, I've got a very good friend that lives in Flagstaff. It's kind of like our Arizona home base. And so we gotta pick up my dad. At this point, we're like, we have 2 days to process 2 elk. Mm-hmm. And so we ended up just buying a chest freezer at Home Depot, plugged it into my buddy's garage, and basically, like, we picked up my dad. We gave him a shopping list, and he went and shopping for all the food for camp in Arizona. This is a guide tent camp. One of our really good friends had the same tag. So we probably had 8 or 9 guys helping these 2 guys get elk, because it's a pretty good hunt, pretty good unit. Like, everybody was trying to shoot good bulls. There was no shooting small bulls here. Uh-huh. I think you've been to Arizona a few times. You know what the game is there. Yeah. There's a lot of good elk there.
Different game. So
my dad's out shopping. We are processing elk like crazy, just butchering, drinking beers, making burgers. Like, it was great, right? It was exhausting, but it was great. Celebrating it. And, we had enough family and friends to have a small Thanksgiving day, and like 10 a.m. Thanksgiving, we're headed to camp, setting up camp and hunting the next morning. Mm-hmm. So there's a spot we hunt. We get this tag as often as we can. And what I say is there's a group of 7 or 8 of us that we're on the cycle of points where almost every other year someone's getting that tag. So we know the spot really well. And we kind of have our strategy for it. We had 2 hunters. And so my dad's 72. So I'm on the ground helping, guiding my dad. I got the pack. I carry everything. I'll even carry his gun for him, till he needs it. And, I have to gauge myself to be like, he's only got so much energy in the day.
Yep.
You got to make your decisions of when you're going to go after something and when you're not. So the day was this is a great unit. I think it's one of the units with the biggest elk herd in Arizona. So, or one or two. So you're going to see elk. It's a matter of if you can find a bull and if you're willing to hold out for a good bull. So it was fantastic to do this hunt with my dad, by the way. Such a special hunt. When you see elk in the field, they're awesome. They're huge. And we had some very close encounters. So I think we found some elk, first light, just stalking, looking, see some cows. And we ended up spotting and finding some elk where we made a play on them. This is my dad, and we didn't have to move fast. We were trying to the angles were right, where I was like, if we methodically move to this ridge, we're probably going to see them. I just don't know if it's going to be at 50 yards or 500 yards. Okay. We should see them. So we get up there, and I'm just like, man, if we're going to see these elk, it's going to be from right here. So I literally sit my dad down and just like, get on your knees, bipod deployed. No sooner did I say that, I look through the bushes, and I'm like, there they are.
That's awesome, dude.
So I'm like, I'm trying to give him the visual cue of like, hey, look at my eyes. They're right there. They're going to come out in front of you right here. Just get ready to shoot, and I'll tell you which one to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Broken off bull comes out. This is 50 yards, by the way.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But they're on a high alert. They scented us. They like put the brakes on. That's why they stopped behind those trees.
Okay.
And small bull comes out, and then 3 or 4 just really good Arizona 6 points, just like hugging each other, come motoring across this clearing. And my dad literally missed the 50-yard shot.
Oh.
And it was half my fault. I'm absolutely partly my fault, partly his fault, but it was just the excitement. He's like, I just saw their body in the scope, didn't even consider the crosshair, and like they were moving at a pretty good clip at that point, but it's 50 yards. When I had pulled his attention away, I shouldn't have done that. I should have just let him stay on the scope looking in the clearing. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking definitely, if not half, I should take more than half of the blame for taking his concentration away. So,
okay.
This is first day. We went from a super high to a super low. We spent the next hour and a half just making sure we hit or didn't hit. No blood, looked all over. Like I saw that shot very clearly. I was like, that bull was not hit. Like I know what a bull getting hit with a 7 PRC, there's a very distinct sound and look of what they do when they get hit. Mm-hmm. So, emotional roller coaster, as you can imagine.
Yeah, for sure, man.
So we spend the next couple hours, actually about an hour after this, we get word our other buddy who's hunting, he's maybe a quarter mile away, half a mile away. They're chasing some bulls.
Okay.
We hear the gunshots go off. 3 or 4 gunshots later, we get word there's a bull down.
Sweet. Okay.
So, there's just action everywhere. And this is typical to, I think, Arizona the first couple of days till the pressure really builds, right? So he ends up shooting a 6 point. We're super excited. We're like, well, we almost had 2 by lunchtime, which is crazy, right? So we end up meeting up with them, check out the bull, kind of make a plan. We're like, well, we're going to keep hunting. The action's too good. There's enough guys here to help you guys process this and get it out. We helped them take their pictures and kind of went off with our thing. And so, we hike up to the spot, my dad and I, that we've known from before, good spot to just sit down, have some lunch, get some water. It's gone from a cold Arizona morning to a hot midday in Arizona, which is what you get. So we're sweating because we had all our warm gear on, and we see some more elk, decide to make a play on those elk. And we know there's bulls in there. And I'm doing all this glassing with my 10s because it's thick over there. This isn't, unless you can find a vantage point somewhere, this is spot and stalk from the ground with 10s, right? Like 15s were no use to me where I was.
Makes sense.
So we're trying to play the wind. Long story short, this is like our second go on some good elk. They must have winded us. I don't think we gave up our spot or sight. They must have winded us because they just took off. And I was like, man, they're still pretty far away, and they took off. So it was either another hunter or us.
Mm-hmm.
We still have, excuse me, we still have a lot of hunting left. It's only the first day of a 7-day hunt, but we're like, man, 2 real good
Yeah.
chances, and we're 0 for 2.
You're getting good action though.
So we go back to our tree, post up again. I tell my dad, I was like, all right, we got about an hour till about 2:30 when these elk are probably going to start getting up and eating again. So if you're going to take a nap, now's a great time. We love hunting naps, by the way. I think they're crucial, very important to hunting. Midday naps are super important. Now, one lesson we've learned is usually one guy needs to nap, one guy needs to be awake.
That's a good one.
One for glassing, or last year that was happening. We had guys glassing our hunters from afar, and a bull walked up to the 2 guys while they were both sleeping, like 20 yards.
Wow. Okay.
So they'll never live that down, but we kind of learned our lesson there, right?
Yeah.
So he takes 20-minute nap. I take a look around, spot some more elk.
Jeez, you're in them, man.
Well, we are in them, and the spot is just like a merger of traffic from all directions. You don't know where they're going to come from or where they're going to go, but you get action.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's herds of cows and spikes. Sometimes it's herds of bulls. And this was a very bull-centric day. Every group of elk we were seeing had bulls in it. Whether it was big, small, raghorns, whatever. So I was like, well, we got nothing to lose. Let's go make a play on these elk. Kind of almost the same spot we busted those elk last time. So I was like, well, let's take a little bit different line and maybe just move slower, as slow as we can, but still get there in time to try to make something happen. And ended up picking them up in the trees somewhere around like 250 yards. And I was like, okay, we're close enough. We already got busted by the wind once. So, and didn't have much to hide behind with this line of sight I had. So we just dropped into the sage grass, and I was like, let me assess them, see what's going on, see if we have a shot and what there is there. And wouldn't you know, of all the elk, this one big bull, just as soon as I saw those antlers in my tens, I was like, oh, that's the one, we're shooting him. I don't even need to look anymore, right? I got range and binos, so I hit the range. As I told my dad, I already had the thing set for 200 yards. It was 250. It's a 7 PRC. I was like, nope, no dialing necessary. Just get on the scope. That's the bull you're going to shoot right there. And so my dad's getting set up. He's like, I can't see it. I can't see it. I can't see it. I was like, what do you mean you can't see it? Well, when you get down on your knees, because I was standing at one point, you can't see him anymore.
Got it.
So while we're doing this, I'm panicking like this bull's going to leave. This bull lays down.
Oh, even better.
Right.
Okay.
We had a 2.5 foot gap between trees. He laid down with his body right between them. Now, that made it harder to see him, but it kept him there for us.
Totally.
So we're trying everything. I was like, I don't want to get closer. We already got busted by the wind once. We're like getting rocks. And I got, I don't know, I got one of the taller bipods. It goes from like 13 to 39 inches or something, right? Trying to get the gun, and I got behind the gun to look at it. I still can't see that thing. We tried putting it on my backpack, still wasn't working. I'd shown my dad the night before my trekking poles. He's like, dude, get out your trekking poles. I was like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. So I extend those things as far as they go, crisscross the loop straps, stake them right into the ground. It's a great rest, by the way. If nobody's ever done that before, it is a phenomenal shooting rest to shoot off shooting sticks or trekking poles if you set them up right. That gave us the extra 6 to 8 inches we need, where he get a real tall kneeling position, was able to get the crosshairs on that bull. And it was just laying there for us. And I was like, shoot that bull. I can see his sword tines. That's all I could see is his body and his sword tines. I was like, yeah, you need to shoot him right now. My dad executed perfectly after that miss earlier in the day. So he made up for it. Just, lower spine, right above the lungs because of where he was sitting. Bull never moved. Just head went laid down. All the elk went running. And he even pumped a second shot into him just to make sure.
Insurance.
They're big and tough, man. You never know.
Oh, God, yeah, they are.
And we didn't want to lose that. So
how far was that shot?
That was like 230 yards.
Oh, dude, that's an impressive shot on some trekking poles.
Yeah. It's funny. The ground was that Arizona dirt, so we really jammed them in there, which really helped. It really sturdied them quite a bit. And I was like, you just shot a really good bull. So I hope you're pretty excited for this. And I even took a video of him walking up to that bull when we went over there, man. And just the emotions on my dad, just like, tough guys turning into tears.
Yeah, dude, it's super emotional. I mean, people are dreaming about that. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the whole point. That's the whole point of those hunts.
and to do it with him, it was like my birthday was the next morning, my 40th birthday. And my dad's like, "Happy birthday to me," and I'm like, "It's your birthday present. I'm giving
Dude,
you a
that's
bull."
awesome.
So we get over there. We ping the guys and we're like, "Hey, we got a bull down. Everybody needs to get here and help this pack out and celebrate because we're done. We're done on day one. It's crazy." But my dad and I had a good 40 minutes of just like chilling out, taking pictures, looking at this elk. He's super cool elk. He got 7 on one side. He had 5 on the other, but he had some stuff broken off, and his left side is completely non-typical.
Okay.
Instead of like going into that whale tail sword tine, it like has tines coming out in some odd directions. Super cool looking bull.
Yeah.
Um, you
A
know,
lot a lot of those bulls are broken at that time. That's
yeah,
pretty normal. So that's awesome.
we're just going over this like we just filled 6 tags on 3 hunts in like 10 days.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it's impressive. I mean, I said it at the beginning, I'll say it now. It's awesome. I mean, to be successful on one of those hunts is beating the odds, but let alone being on all of them, it's wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
So great season. It always comes too fast and ends too quickly. But we then had to drive back to New York. So we had a good 36 hours of truck time to reminisce, talk about what we do differently, what we wouldn't. My dad may never hunt out west again. He's still pretty good and healthy, but I think he's content. He's like, I'm good. I got my
Okay.
bull, right? And just great to do it with him. And the funny part is, I think next year my wife's got points to hunt that unit. She's got max points. I think
Oh God.
she'll clear it by several.
Sweet.
And so she's not a huge hunter. She loves that I hunt and she eats. She loves eating the meat. And she said she's always wanted to hunt an elk at least once. So she's going to get a pretty good bull hunt, and we're going to try to do the same thing. And I'm hoping to bring my oldest daughter on the hunt with us. So it's becoming a little bit more of a family affair out west, and it becomes a special experience. And I think I've started to find more joy in helping friends and family, get elk and deer and hunt than myself.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a different excitement to it. It's kind of tough I mean, it's certainly tough to describe, but it is a joy, that's for sure. Seeing somebody else light up and have a good time. So I definitely get it. And I mean, what a cool story too. To one, your dad getting that, and then your birthday and the whole deal. Like that's pretty epic.
Yeah, and it's you got kids and a family. This hunt falls over Thanksgiving, and being away from your kids and your wife on Thanksgiving, man, it's hard on everybody. And I'm grateful that they let me do this. Um, so we wanted to get home. Definitely, it was time to get home, and tagging
Hmm.
out early got us home about 6 days early, which was great.
How many days did you actually plan on being gone?
I think if we went the full distance, it was going to be almost 21, 22 days.
Okay. Yeah,
But
I estimated 20, just kind of thinking about it. So, all
it's
right.
the driving kills us, right? It can, if
It's
you
like 6 days.
really push it, you can do it in 2 days, right? And we typically will sleep in a hotel.
Yeah.
I'm old enough now; I don't need to drive straight through the night anymore.
Yeah, I would
Um,
figure like 2.5 days there, 2.5 days back. So three and
that
three almost.
Yeah, and that's if you don't catch snow. Everything goes well. 2.5 days comfortably, kind of gets you there. So,
Hmm.
but it's interesting. Like it is a long time away, and I stack these hunts. But like, I'll give you an example. We've done Montana General 2 out of the last 4 years. We'll go for 7 to 10 days of hunting, and we end up being away for 14 days, 15 days.
Yeah.
Anyway, between travel and scouting, so it's like I know it was a little longer this time, but I ended up squeezing in 3 hunts, which was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Different terrain, different everything. It's a much different scenario than those Montana hunts. I get that. You guys bounced around quite a bit in Montana too. Thinking about those.
Man, that hunt last year. So, it was the same spot we went to 2 years prior, which we caught the migration. There was elk everywhere.
Hmm.
And, that was a tough hunt. We hunted 7 days. We saw elk 2 times and we killed an elk both times, and that was it. I mean,
Yeah.
one was a cow, and we got so lucky shooting 2 bulls. I shot a bull side by side with my brother on our second to last night, and it was the only bulls we laid eyes on the entire
Yeah.
trip. So, that's the luck
Made
piece
it
of it
count.
for sure. Made it count.
Made it count. That's all that matters. Well, I appreciate the stories and the detail. I hope listeners and viewers took some good tidbits out of that. I know I did, and there's a lot of good information that you can break down from it. But a lot of fun just hearing all of it. It's epic in my book. So I love
Yeah.
that. Antonio, if people want to follow you or have any way of seeing what you're up to, you got any social media or anything that people track you on?
I don't.
Okay, all right, fair.
But I'll tell them to follow you at
I love it.
East to West Hunts, and I'll tell you it's been fantastic building a relationship with you over these years. And maybe some people think that you only do hunting applications, or maybe you help with e-scouting, but I can attest. We've actually never met in person, right? We've done video calls. We talk several times a year. We usually catch up via text. I
Yep.
feel like I know you better than I haven't met you in person, but for the listeners, like, I call you and chat about situational stuff. I'm driving out west and I usually give you a call. I'm like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. I know you did a hunt and we talked about it. And I think just the resources and picking your brain. And I know you and I have shot ideas back and forth. It's been fantastic and helpful. And I will say, I've used your hunt plans in several places. I've harvested elk on every one of those hunts, and so have several of the guys with me. So I don't know that I need to say anymore.
No. I really appreciate that. That's a good live review, but
That's fact. And if they want to get a hold of me, you can give them my private number, and I'll tell them how it went.
There we go. If you guys want to get a hold of Antonio for a real review, I'll send you his contact info. But
yeah,
no, I appreciate
this is
that.
all
That means a
public
lot, man.
land. This is all public land. Do it yourself, right? Like, obviously, I've got your
Yeah.
help from some scouting. I love guys. I'm not against guides. It's just not where I'm at yet. And if I can do it, I think anybody can do it. So just get out there and put your time in.
Well, I think what I can attest though from you and getting to know you over the years is you are willing to grind, and you put the work in, like they don't come easy, you hear it. I think your Colorado hunt in particular, like
Yep.
just goes to show, like, you could easily turn around or not go there or whatever the case is, but you gotta push it to make it happen. So
Well, we said it several times. Every time we'd come off of a hike off the mountain in Colorado, we'd run into a truck glassing from the road. When I say road, it's like a 2-track across BLM, right?
sure.
Not the highway. And we chat with everybody, and they were like, "You were up in there?" And I was like, "Yeah." I usually don't give my spots away. I was like, "Yeah, we killed a bull on opening day." And they're like, "What? Here?"
Yeah.
Like, "Yep."
Yeah, but they're not going in there.
Yeah. But, listen, I have all respect for guys who can go so far back in, and it's tough. I've killed a lot of elk within 1 to 2 miles of the road or the trail. And I have no problem killing them close to the road, by the way.
No, I mean,
I'm not against that.
But but they're still not going to come easy, and 1 or 2 miles can easily turn into, it's steep and thick and nasty, and
could be 3,000, 4,000 feet of elevation in that 2 miles. It's big.
Well, needless to say, you crushed it, man. Congrats again. I love it. And
thanks for all your help.
Yeah, you're welcome. I appreciate the kind words and the friendship at this point. I think we've tackled some good stuff together. So I love it.
Keep it going. You guys are doing great stuff. And
appreciate it.
Again, maybe as I get a little older and slower, I'll start buying some of those tags that go up for sale.
You never know. With that said, I'll add my short spiel here, but if you are looking for tag applications as we jump into tag app season, or hunt planning, or getting together both, this is the time to do it. So if you want to chat, go on to the website, www.east2westhunts.com, and click that free consultation button, get booked in my schedule, and we can chat about what you are looking to do, short, mid, and long term. And if you want to follow along on social media, I'll add everything in the notes here. But Instagram is probably the best, and that's at East to West Hunts. And then if you're listening to this, check us out on YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and Spotify for either audio or video. But appreciate it. Follow along, like, subscribe, give us a 5-star review if you don't mind. That would help out greatly. And until next time, just remember to scout, hunt, and repeat. See ya. All right.